Hey everybody, it's Romania Black. We're on episode 7 of number 6, and things have gotten really interesting, particularly with Nezumi. So, Nezumi is such a complicated character in the show, and I really like him because on the surface, he seems like he's very cold and unfeeling. But under the surface, there are a lot of emotions weighing on Nezumi, not only in how he cares for Shion, but also his actions and how he presents himself. And the fact that he's an actor on top of it kind of layers that as well. So in the last episode, when he was basically like, eventually he's been saying we're gonna become enemies, you and I, Shion, this whole series. He thinks it's inevitable that their views on number 6 and the society of number 6 are going to drive them apart. But honestly, for one, Shion doesn't really seem like he wants to save number 6 so much as he wants to rescue his mom and keep her safe and find a middle ground. Like Shion recognizes there's stuff going wrong in number 6 and he doesn't necessarily want to comply with the government, but he wants to try to find a third option. He's like, it's not just black and white. There has to be some kind of compromise that you and I can do. And Nezumi is very stubbornly saying, no, it's either all or nothing. But then in the last part of the last episode, he gets a note from Shion's mother saying that Safu's been taken by the government and to help her. And he looks around and sees, he sees all of this stuff with him and Shion, that's him and Shion's shared items. And you just know that he's like, I don't want Shion to go. I'm not ready to give him up. And it's like, if you don't care about somebody, then you wouldn't care if you win or not. Just saying. So it's very clear that he has feelings for Shion. It's very clear that Shion has feelings for Nezumi. Whether those are romantic or not, I mean, I have my thoughts, but the series hasn't made it completely canon yet, other than Shion saying, I'm drawn to you, and I find you interesting, and I find that I want to be around you. You can construe that however you want. But, yeah, so we have that. Safu's been taken by the government. The wasps are not hibernating. They're still breaking out of people's skin in disgusting ways and killing people. So that's a problem. And then the mom is trying to get a note to her son to tell him about... I'm worried about the mom. I really am. Because the moment we saw that guy watching them, I'm like, they know that Safu's been in contact with her. And she's been a former member of this, working with this organization X. So it's like I really can't wait to get into the manga to find out more, but I think I'm going to wait until after this episode before I go back into the manga, because I've read volumes 1 and 2, and volume 2 ended right around the time that episode 4 and 5, episode 4 is kind of where I started reading the manga, and then I stopped, and then episode 6, the last episode with the grandmother and her dying, that's where volume 2 left off. So there's still a lot of manga content, but I think after this episode I might read maybe volume 3. Maybe volume 3 I might read after this episode just to see where we're at. I've been taking notes because I eventually want to do a soapbox going over this whole manga, but I've been taking notes, but I think I'll wait till after this episode to read volume 3 and just kind of see where the story delineates or goes along with it. But yeah, lots of symbolism, lots of stuff with Nezumi and Shion. I love the dancing. I love the theatrics and the theater portions that we've seen in episode 5. And so, yeah, I'm ready to see more. So we're going to watch episode 7 in this. And I think it was called like Truths and Lies, or Truths, Fabrications and Lies, which kind of fits the whole Nezumi trying to hide how he actually feels sort of thing. But in any case, we are going to start episode 7 here of number 6 here in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and let's go. Okay, so before I start this reaction, I want to let you all know that when I started the reaction, for some reason, my mouser hit the middle of the episode, and so I actually started reacting to this episode halfway through. So when it ended, I was like, wait, what's happening? So what I'm going to do is go back to the beginning where I should have started and watch that up until the halfway point, and then I'll note it, and then we'll cut to the ED. Sorry about that, but I want to keep the reaction genuine, and I was like, man, we really cut through a lot without the manga explaining it. I guess the manga will explain it, so sorry about that, guys. We'll start the actual episode here in 3, 2, 1. Thanks. Bye. Okay. Welp. So, aside from the technical error that happened, this is a really good episode. I it didn't really affect me starting the episode halfway through and then having to backtrack because luckily where I accidentally started it was okay. But so much, this is definitely one of those episodes where I do feel like even though after watching the whole thing it was very coherent from start to finish, it went by way too fast. But I do feel like I need to go and read the manga. I will have to read the manga to see what all has been left out and altered, if anything, because this is one of those things I definitely want to see what the manga has that we didn't get to see in the anime. So Inuyasha, you can tell that Inuyasha it has a thing for Shion just like Nezumi does. Not to the extent, obviously, that Nezumi does, but Inuyasha definitely has grown a soft spot for Shion and doesn't want to see him get hurt. And that was pretty much epitomized when Doglin was like, if you don't like him, then at least protect him. If you don't want to admit it. Some weird stuff happening in this episode. Some very weird setup and things happening. I totally called that old woman being an authority. The man, Yasmin, the reporter, I didn't feel as suspicious about him in this episode until that preview. And that preview brought my suspicions right back up again. But he clearly seems to be... He says he's trying to investigate and spy on number 6. I don't know how much I believe of that, or if he's setting stuff up, or if he's being played by number 6 and doesn't realize it. I'm not sure about that yet. The whole sample thing. So I thought for a second that it was the mom. My first thought was that it was Nezumi. When we first had the sample thing, I was like, oh, okay, we're getting Nezumi backstory. That was shut down because it looked like a woman in the tank. And then we got to hear her voice. And I was like, is it the mom? Is this a past, like a flashback to the mom? And the mom was experimented on? My first thoughts before the preview was that, okay, the mom has been experimented on. Shion is the golden egg. And that's why he wasn't affected by the wasp to the extent, or that's why he was affected by the wasp the way that he was, because he's this sample that's going to be resistant to the wasp's poison or whatever. But then in the preview, it looked like Safu was the one being experimented on. So I'm like, okay, is that connected to Safu being able to hear the same song that Nezumi was? How does that work? They've erased her from the system, so they clearly just want to experiment on her and use her, which I think will help her and Nezumi connect more because Nezumi knows what that's like to be experimented on. So I'm very, very curious what her role in this story is going to be, and I want to see in the manga if that's expanded more. I said at the beginning of this reaction that after this episode, I'll probably read Volume 3 and see how far it goes into where we're at now, and that will determine whether I go into Volume 4 or not, unless you all comment down below and you're like, no, don't do it! But, yeah... So that's very curious. I still don't trust that man. I don't trust the reporter still. I'm definitely still worried about the mom because she is setting herself up to be in a dangerous situation because the authorities are onto her now. And that reporter, I've always had the sneaking suspicion that reporter is trying to use her for nefarious means and is self-serving. And so I'm like, I don't trust him. And I feel like she's going to be stuck between a rock and a hard place where she either gets captured by number 6 or she has to help this man and put herself in danger either way. So it's like, I don't know. The reporter and Regika kind of have the same kind of snake-like slithery nature to them that I don't trust. And so it's like, and I get the feeling that Regika, I'm trusting him a little bit more and more because Shion's had an impact on him, kind of like he has with Inuyasha. But I still don't trust them all the way because there's this whole thread in this world of you can't trust anybody, and so it's just very conflicting. I do like that we have Doglone confronted with the idea that they hate death, they are afraid of death, and Nezumi was quite cold in that scene, and I get that Nezumi's like trying to get what he wants done, but he's like, yeah, you made this big deal about me singing a song at your dog's death. If you die, I'm not going to come help you. I'm not going to sing you a song. I'm not going to be there. And there's this big, symbolic connection in the West End that everybody's on their own. No one has, it's kind of like you fend for yourself, the strongest survive, no one's helping anybody, it's just survival of the fittest. And Inakashi seems to have found this somewhat relationship with Nezumi and Regika and Shion. And the fact that Nezumi's like, I'm going to cut all ties with you and never help you again and never be around you, is that would be frightening to somebody who is entirely alone and needs that socialization, that constant companionship. So that's interesting. Of course, Nezumi has a diagram of number 6 because he was experimented on there. Of course he does. And trying to find the security system. I'm curious if Nezumi is actually on board with the breaking down the wall idea. I am curious, because why would you want the security system except to go rescue Safu and plan it all out like he says at the very end of the episode? But one thing I love about this episode is that there was confrontation and communication between Shion and Nezumi. Finally, that's what I've wanted this whole series so far, is for them to come together and talk, and that is what I've been wanting, and we finally get it. When the episode started, like I said, I started halfway through on accident, and Inakashi was like, Shion knows about Safu being kidnapped. And I was like, oh, how? And I thought the manga explained it, and we just skipped all that. But no, he finds out from the coat that's in the shop, which is kind of disturbing, because it has a very World War II Holocaust implication that, during the Holocaust, when people were killed by the Nazis, they would just take their shoes and clothes and redistribute them. And that's exactly what's happening here, is that it seems people's items are being redistributed, which is problematic and makes you wonder. They said the janitors are sneaking out things from the correctional facility, so it's like how much of these belongings are trash and how much of these belongings were once people's items that have just been sifted away into the system, to get it out of the way. So that's pretty disturbing, and I'm wondering if we'll find the grandma's sewing needle, because that still bothers me from last episode that we don't know where that is. So yeah, Nezumi's whole plan to save Safu is interesting, and I'm wondering if the manga is going to delve more into that, because my guess is that by the end of this episode, Nezumi has realized that we need to do something. We need to rescue Safu, because eventually Shion's going to find out. He's going to go off by himself and do it, and I won't be able to stop him. So if we just go ahead and get it done with, sure. And I'm wondering if Nezumi's also, his ulterior motive is that while I'm in number 6, I can cause all this havoc and chaos while we're there and kind of kill two birds with one stone. We'll rescue Safu, we'll cause all this chaos and take number 6 down. Seems like a win-win situation for Nezumi. He gets to make Shion happy and also gets to get his own agenda accomplished as well. And man, that expression when he finds out that Shion knows and is planning something and tells Inakashi to back off. But then, okay, let's talk about the dinner scene, because I was like, this is like a last meal sort of scenario. They come in, everything's all fine and dandy, but we know behind the scenes. And now I love going back to the scene now that I have the full episode in context. Yeah, Shion and Nezumi, they both are planning on breaking into the correctional facility, but neither has told the other, and neither wants the other to go. So it's perfect. And this meal is clearly a last meal that Shion has prepared. This is the last time I'm going to see you and have dinner. Let's make it a good event. Let's have fun. We'll give some to the rats. But here's the thing. I said at the beginning of this episode that I don't know Shion and Nezumi's, if their feelings towards each other are romantic. After this episode, yep. Shion likes Nezumi, and Nezumi likes Shion. And here's the thing, because Nezumi kind of tests him about it. He's like, oh, why would you want to rescue Safu? Do you have romantic feelings towards Safu? He's like, do you think she'll still want to have sex with you after you rescue her? And Shion's kind of like, well, she's probably outgrown me, which is code for I've outgrown her and I don't want to have sex with her. She's probably moved on already. And Nezumi's like, nah, girls like that aren't like that. And then Shion says, well, I don't really know what girls think. It's like, you both are hinting around at it, just come out and say it. And then the kiss. It was not a kiss of gratitude, not just like a platonic complimentary. He says it's a goodbye, a goodnight kiss. But that's a lie. It was this is the last time I'll ever see you. I'm going to give you a kiss because I care about you and I love you, and this is the last time I'm going to see you probably alive. So here's something for you to remember. That's what I took it as, because that he clearly was leaving that morning with every intention of not telling Nezumi and going there by himself, potentially not coming back. Like that seemed like the whole thing. And Nezumi quickly caught on. I mean, he knows what's happening, but and then you don't say I'm so glad I met you and give you a kiss and then let it linger there and then that's it and it'd be platonic. I'm sorry, but that's nope. I refuse to believe that. And now I want to see this in the manga because I want to see, if there's anything else said or if it's exactly like this. Yeah. I have to give the dogs a haircut. Mm-hmm. Sure thing. Sure you do, Shion. And Nezumi just lingering there like, okay, I can't let him go do this because clearly it's gotten to this point. But I love that they both slug it out and they both are like, we both lied to each other, which is what I wanted them to have this discussion from the very beginning. I'm like, they both lied to each other and said, look, I realize that, you're lying to me. Nezumi's like, you're lying to me, Shion, because you say you're going to go give the dogs a haircut. You're going the wrong way, and I know what you're planning on doing. And then it almost was like he was trying to pass it off as Inukashi's fault. He's like, look what I found, this note. Inukashi told me about this. But Shion's like, no, you're lying now too. You should have told me about this message earlier. And so they both acknowledge the fact they've been deceiving one another. And I'm so glad at this point that they come to terms, because I was afraid that was going to be something that was going to keep on happening and be a thing. And thank goodness we're at this point just putting it all on the table and saying, no, let's not lie and deceive each other anymore. We need to work together if we're going to make this work. And Nezumi's like, look, I'm going to meet you halfway. If you want to rescue Safu, don't go running off doing something reckless. Let's plan this out and do this right. And Shion is so right in saying, look, I'm tired of being treated on and being doted on by you. I want to be your equal. Like, tell me what's going on with number 6. Tell me how to help. Like, I'm tired of you just keeping me in the dark. I want to be on equal footing. And it's like, that's all I've wanted this whole season. And I'm so happy that this episode we get that. And that conversation they have between each other, just them laying everything on the table and talking about their cares for one another and just becoming partners instead of, one following the other. It's all I wanted. It's all I wanted. And then it ends the episode. And right about the time the episode ended, I was like, wait, why is it ending so soon? And then I realized my mistake. And so, and Nezumi realizing telling Shion how important he is, they both tell each other, Shion saying, I'm glad I've met you because otherwise I would have grown up being apathetic and insecure and emotionless, and you've helped me to realize my emotions. And that's kind of like if you're in a relationship with someone, people are like, oh, people in relationships fight. And it's like, yeah, you fight, you get angry at one another, but that's part of it. And then you express those emotions and that makes your relationship deeper. And as long as it's healthy and you're able to communicate and work past it, then it makes that bond stronger. And that's what Shion is saying. And then Nezumi says, I was alone and in the dark and I needed a miracle, and you screaming out that window was like a beacon. Like, it led me back to you and showed me that mankind can be a savior. It can help others. And I learned that from you and no one else. And it's like, and he's like, I can't forget it or push it away. So yeah, you're the reason I am who I am. So of course I care about you. And it's like, and the dawn breaks and it's like, it's just so wonderful. Like, I absolutely love it. And they basically are like, okay, let's do this together. Don't give me a goodbye kiss because we're not saying goodbye to each other yet. And then he ends it by saying, I have something to show you. I want to show you something. And then it cuts to the ending. And that's when I was like, oh, okay, we're ending this. But yeah, it's a really good episode. It was a really good episode. I really enjoyed that. I am definitely curious by this preview what's going on with Safu, what's going on. It looked like a colony in the hills. Like, we've had West Block, so I'm wondering if this is like deeper into away from number 6, like down in the catacombs, We're getting into like the deep, mountainous areas where there's some like feral people. So I'm curious about what all is up with that. I think I'm gonna read volume 3. I might just limit it to volume 3 just to be safe. But I want to go back and read a little bit more of the manga before episode 8. So I think I'm gonna read volume 3 and see what has been missed, and then talk about it when we start episode 8. But yeah, so I hope you enjoyed this reaction. I'm sorry it was a little jumbled up and out of sorts, but it ended up working out fine in the end. So please let me know your thoughts down below. Please no spoilers. But yeah, next week we'll come back and do episode 8 of number 6. Have a good week, stay safe, and I'll talk to y'all again soon. Bye.